We're sick and tired of being abused and beaten and bashed and killed while this governor does nothing to save our lives.
Serious issues. Gay couples say they are denied family rights like Social Security, medical benefits, and inheritance that are automatic for straights. Gays say the war on AIDS isn't going fast enough. And reports of anti-gay violence are rising.
Military, within the last year, has discharged almost 1,000 service members based on their sexual orientation, and that within the last 10 years they've discharged over 13,000.
Scientists at the National Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta today released the results of a study which shows that the lifestyle of some male homosexuals has triggered an epidemic of a rare form of cancer.
Over the past decade, San Francisco's war on AIDS has been fought with activism. Protests against government inaction and demonstrations of gay pride. Residents have not waited for federal or state help.
We're not trying to promote anything. We're not trying to enhance anything. We're just trying to stop a deadly disease.
Those on the front lines can only hope their city's dedication will be enough to battle a second decade of AIDS.
Cleve Jones took a stand for the LGBTQ community and the prevention of AIDS by being the first to respond and take action to the epidemic by promoting movements that enforced equality, uniting the AIDS and LGBTQ community, which resulted in expanding society's acceptance towards the disease and the LGBTQ community, further influencing societal progress. During the 1970s, Jones worked as a student intern in Milk's office while studying political science at San Francisco State University. From then on, Cleve Jones began his career as an activist in San Francisco during the turbulent 1970s when he was befriended by pioneer gay rights leader Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was a visionary civil and human rights leader who became one of the first openly gay elected officials in the United States when he won a seat on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 1977. Milk's loud and unapologetic proclamation of his authenticity as an openly gay candidate for public office and his election gave never-before-experienced hope to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered people everywhere at a time when the community was encountering widespread hostility and discrimination. However, 8 years later, Harvey Milk and Mayor George Moscone were assassinated on November 27, 1978.
Board of Supervisors, it's my duty to make this announcement. Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
After this incident, Jones dropped out of school to work in Sacramento as a legislative consultant to California State Assembly speakers. From 1979 to 1981, rare types of pneumonia, cancer, and other illnesses were being reported by doctors in Los Angeles and New York among a number of male patients who had sex with other men. In 1982, public health officials used the term acquired immunodeficiency syndrome.
If anything, I become angry that so little has been done, in the sense that, I don't think the government and the medical profession's full efforts have been put towards the solution of this problem.
In 1981, the AIDS epidemic was starting to increase in the United States and no one wanted to speak about it, including President Ronald Reagan, who refused to talk about it until 1987. Many victims were humiliated to talk about AIDS because being homosexual or bisexual was unacceptable. However, Cleve Jones was the first to speak about this disease.
This huge quilt that today is being spread out on the Capitol Mall in Washington has 2,000 panels, every one crafted by the friends and relatives of an AIDS victim. This memorial, the size of 2 football fields, is the brainchild of San Franciscan Cleve Jones.
So we want to show the President and the Congress and the rest of the country the enormity of this epidemic. And with our quilt, we hope to show that enormity by providing people with a glimpse of the faces that are behind all of the statistics.
In 1985, Cleve Jones helped organize the annual Candlelight March honoring Harvey Milk and Mayor George Moscone. While planning this march, he learned that over 1,000 San Franciscans had been lost to AIDS. He asked each of his fellow marchers to write on placards the name of friends and loved ones who had died of AIDS. At the end of the march, Jones and others stood on ladders taping these placards to the walls of the San Francisco Federal Building. The walls of names looked like a patchwork quilt. Inspired by this sight, Jones and friends made plans for a larger memorial. It looks like some kind of quilt, and when I said the word quilt, I thought of my great-grandma. And it was such a warm and comforting and middle American traditional family value sort of symbol. and I thought, this is a symbol we should take. The first panel of the quilt was created a little over a year later by Cleve in memory of his friend Marvin Feldman. Most panels are accompanied by letters, biographies, and photos, all of which speak to the experience of life in the age of AIDS, documenting the effect on those lost and those left behind. These documentary materials, when combined with the quilt panel images, make a rich tapestry of information, a legacy to future generations. In 1987, 1,920 panels were exhibited on the National Mall in Washington and reviewed by more than 500,000. And on December 1, 1999, Jones was a keynote speaker at the opening of the Parliament of the World Regions in Cape Town, South Africa, where AIDS memorial quilt panels from South Africa, Europe, and the United States were displayed. In 1987, Jones also helped found the Names Project, created to preserve, care for, and use the AIDS memorial quilt to foster healing, heighten awareness, and inspire action in the struggle against HIV and AIDS. The Names Project's AIDS memorial quilt consists of 48,000 3 feet by 3 feet panels and 94,000 names of individuals who died from the autoimmune disease. It is the largest community art project in the world. The creation of each panel by loved ones all connect the AIDS quilt to historical commemorative quilts. Loved ones often incorporate items of the deceased's clothing, other visual and textual references to their talents, personalities, and significant relationships, and expressions of the survivor's love and grief. For these reasons, and because 14 million people have viewed displays of the quilt worldwide, the AIDS Memorial Quilt has been effective in its activist goals of raising awareness, changing attitudes, supporting AIDS charities, and spurring government action in response to the seriousness of the AIDS epidemic. As of today, independent affiliates of the Names Project are currently operating in 50 countries, including Canada, France, Brazil, Mexico, Cuba, Australia, and Russia. In 1983, Cleve Jones co-founded the San Francisco AIDS Foundation.
But I'm proud of what we did. Hi, I'm Cleve Jones, and I'm one of the co-founders of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. So we're standing here at 520 Castro Street, which is the location of the first offices of what was then called the Kaposi Sarcoma Research and Education Foundation, because when we started, we hadn't yet created the word AIDS. It was constant crisis management. Think of sort of a triage unit in a war zone. Because people were coming in every day just freaking out. And people would walk in this door and go up the stairs. Sometimes they would be crying, sometimes they would be almost in shock. They would take off their shoes and socks and show us the lesions on their feet. We were completely unprepared. Who could have been prepared? We didn't know what to do. The death toll rose so rapidly. By 1985, almost everyone I knew was dead, dying, or taking care of someone who was dying. It was overwhelming. Everybody fought back. Everyone was touched by it, and everyone responded in one way or another. But everyone in this neighborhood, and really everyone in this city, I think, rose to the occasion. So we've got to do everything we can, and the AIDS Foundation continues to lead the way, not only on providing the services, but that very important voice in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. for effective, compassionate, scientifically sound policies. In these rooms up here, every single day, people were coming in crisis. The thing I remember most vividly, that I waited there one morning for the phone company to send their technician to install the lines, and the guy showed up. He was a little bit late. He did his work, and as he was walking down the stairs, the phone began to ring. Even though we had yet to publicize the number in any way, it began to ring, and it never stopped ringing, and it's still ringing today at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. I'm very, very hopeful for the future. We will see an end to this. We can do this.
To this day, Jones travels extensively throughout the United States and around the world lecturing at high schools, colleges, and universities. And despite all the efforts that the government and activists have put against the LGBTQ community, Cleve Jones changed the view of AIDS and the LGBTQ community forever by being a reason why they have the recognition they deserve in the United States today, and continues to fight for equality.